For a long time, it felt like we were watching a movie that would never end. The fast cars, the cigars, the endless loop of invincibility. It was designed to look untouchable. But recently, the script seems to have flipped. We aren't watching an action movie anymore. We're watching a courtroom drama. And honestly, the main character looks tired.
That is the perfect way to frame it. For years, the Top G brand was built on one specific promise: total control. Control over money, control over women, control over the system, what he calls the matrix. But what happens when you lose control over your own physical freedom? That is the ultimate reality check. The legend was about being above the rules. But the defeat we are seeing now is the realization that gravity applies to everyone, even him.
Exactly. And that's what makes this moment so fascinating sociologically. It's not just about legal charges or jail time. It's about the shattering of an aura. Think about his fan base. They bought into the idea that he had the cheat codes to life. When you see someone who claims to have the cheat codes getting handcuffed, doesn't that break the spell? Or do you think the Matrix narrative is strong enough to hold it all together?
That is the million-dollar question. The genius, and I use that word carefully, of his narrative architecture was that he pre-packaged his downfall as part of the plot. He told his followers, "If they come for me, it proves I'm right." It's a circular logic that acts like a shield. So, for the die-hard believers, seeing him defeated doesn't prove he's a criminal. It proves he's a martyr. But here is the catch. That shield only works on the internet. It doesn't work in a court of law.
Right. A judge doesn't care about your subscriber count or your philosophy on the Matrix. But let's dig a bit deeper into that defeat. We aren't just talking about prison. We are talking about the deconstruction of the lifestyle, the assets being seized, the public humiliation. It feels like the curtain has been pulled back, like in The Wizard of Oz. We're seeing the machinery behind the magic trick. Do you think this defeat is actually going to stop the influence, or will he just mutate into something else?
I think we are witnessing the difference between a character and a person. The character of the Top G cannot lose. He is invincible. But the person is facing very serious, very grim realities. I think the influence is already fracturing. You see, the appeal was success. It was aspirational. Listen to me, and you'll be rich and free. Well, right now, he isn't free. And if the aspiration dies, the audience leaves. It's hard to sell a lifestyle of ultimate freedom from a cell or under house arrest. The visual dissonance is too strong.
That's a great point. The visual dissonance. It's hard to project alpha energy when you are at the mercy of bureaucratic scheduling. But I want to touch on something else, the vacuum he leaves behind. If this is truly a defeat, a definitive end to the legend, what happens to those millions of young men who were hanging on his every word? They were looking for something, right? Structure, discipline, masculinity. If he falls, does that need disappear?
No, and that is the tragedy of this whole saga. The hunger for guidance is real. He exploited a very real crisis of identity among young men. He offered them a map, but the map led off a cliff. Now that the guide has fallen, those young men are still lost. They are still looking for meaning. The defeat of Andrew Tate isn't a solution to the problem that created him. It's just the removal of one symptom. And frankly, if society doesn't offer a better, healthier alternative for male role models, another Top G will pop up tomorrow, maybe with a different name, but selling the same snake oil.
That's a terrifying thought. It's like whack-a-mole with radical influences. But looking at the specific nature of this downfall, the allegations of exploitation, the human trafficking charges, it's so dark. It stands in such stark contrast to the protector and provider image he tried to sell. Do you think the sheer ugliness of the reality is finally piercing through the meme culture? Or are we just too desensitized?
I think for the general public, the ugliness is undeniable. The details are gruesome. It strips away the glamour. You can't hide behind a cigar and a Bugatti when the conversation shifts to coercion and abuse. It grounds the flight of fancy into the dirt. However, for the core cult, denial is a powerful drug. Admitting he is a villain means admitting they were duped. And nobody likes to admit they were the fool. So, they might double down. But historically, these cults of personality always collapse. They run on momentum. Once the momentum stops, the gravity of truth takes over.
The gravity of truth. I like that. It feels like that's exactly what is happening. The hype defied gravity for a long time, but eventually, you have to land. And this landing looks like a crash. Before we wrap up, I have to ask, looking back at this entire phenomenon 10 years from now, what is the lesson? Is this a story about the dangers of social media, or a story about the fragility of ego?
It is a story about the danger of absolute certainty. He sold absolute certainty in a complex world. He told people, I have the answer. But reality is nuanced. The lesson is that anyone selling you a perfect life is usually hiding a very chaotic one. The top G was a performance art piece that got out of hand. The reality check isn't just for him, it's for everyone who clicked like. It forces us to ask, why were we so willing to believe the performance in the first place?
That is a heavy question to end on. Why do we want to believe the lie? Maybe because the truth is boring. Or maybe because it requires work we don't want to do.
Precisely. The truth is boring, but it keeps you free. The lie is exciting, but as we are seeing now, the price of that excitement is everything you have.
A sobering reality check indeed. The legend might be over, but the cleanup is just beginning. Thanks for breaking this down with me today.
Always a pleasure. Let's see what the next chapter holds.